Hey guys, welcome to Show Crazes, please. So this week when I was making my latest video, I had one of those days where anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Oh my god. So today as I'm editing the video, I lost a lot of my footage, so I'm gonna have to explain what's going on. But that's okay, because I lost like the talking stuff, so that's alright. Got a little bit lucky there. So today we're going to talk about the creaming method again. I have another video about space cookies, which explains the creaming method. But today I wanted to talk about how you could manipulate a recipe to make it your own kind of recipe. So today I'm going to take an oatmeal cookie recipe and I'm going to turn it into a carrot cake cookie recipe. And I'm going to make carrot cake cookie sandwiches. So in my original oatmeal cookie recipe, to make this a carrot cake recipe, I'm really playing with the mix-ins and I'm just taking out a little bit of the liquid, because when I mix in carrot, I know the liquid is going to come out of the carrot. So I don't want my cookies to be too liquidy. Now this is my first attempt at making this carrot cake cookie, so down the line I think I'm going to change some things. Since this video is hindsight, we can see where we need to improve things. So if you're doing this at home, I actually recommend keeping the molasses and the milk in the recipe so the cookies spread a little bit more, which is the recipe I'll put up on the screen. So as usual, the first thing we want to do is get our meats together. So we want to peel our carrots, shred them, and then make sure that we squeeze all of the liquid out of them by putting them in a kitchen towel and wringing out the excess liquid. Next thing we want to do is make sure our walnuts are chopped up into bite-sized pieces. Then we're going to crack 2 eggs. After that, we're going to get our dry ingredients together. So the dry ingredients are basically all the ingredients is not the sugar that are dry. So we need our oats, we need our flour, we need our spices, our baking soda, and our salt. So when you measure out your sugar, make sure that you pack the brown sugar to make sure you have a full cup. So once we're meased up, we're gonna start the process of the creaming method. So the first part in the creaming method is cream the butter and sugar. So what this is going to do is the room temperature butter is kind of like this plasticky consistency, and we're going to cut air holes into it with the sugar crystals. So a way to make your cookie more dense would be to melt the butter and put it into the recipe, as opposed to doing that process of whipping air into the butter with the sugar crystals. Now I mentioned that the butter and the eggs have to be the same temperature. This is because if they're not the same temperature, we're going to cause the butter to seize up and it's going to look pretty gross. But it's also going to let all that air escape because the butter is contracting because it's cold. And all the air is going to come out. So once the butter is really light in color, light and fluffy like a buttercream, which is going to be really easy to see with brown sugar because it's going to go from the dark brown sugar color to like a light tan color, that's when you want to add the eggs. But you want to make sure you're constantly scraping the bowl down, because if you're not scraping the bowl down, you're only mixing this way. You're not mixing top to bottom. So it's really important you're always scraping, because you want to make sure everything is homogeneous. So once you have your eggs in, you're going to want to whip that too, because the egg white will actually trap some air into it. So if we beat that for a little bit, it will get some more air in there. Now I like my oatmeal cookies a little bit crisp, and because we're making a oatmeal cookie sandwich, actually, all that moisture from the cream cheese frosting is gonna kind of seep its way into the cookie when we seal them in a Tupperware when we're storing them. So the cookie will have a little bit of, will get a little bit more moist. It'll absorb the moisture from the frosting. So that's why I keep them a little more on the crisp side. But if you're looking for more like a moon pie, you know, you definitely want to add more liquids to your recipe. So this way it'll be more cakey instead of more chewy or crispy. So once we're done with the eggs, you also want to add your vanilla in there, any other liquid flavoring you have. And then we're going to move on to the dry ingredients. Now there's not that many dry ingredients in this recipe. You could add it in thirds, but I'm just going to add it all at once. And then as soon as it's all incorporated, I'm going to make sure that I scrape the bowl top to bottom, mix it a little bit after that, because I don't want to overmix this since I'm going to add in the mix-ins. So our mix-ins are going to be the raisins, the walnuts, and the carrots. And then I'm just going to mix that to combine. If you want to, you can, if you're doing a bigger batch than this, you could fold it in off the mixer if you think it's going to be too much stuff in your mixer. But you're just going to let it stir a couple times to incorporate it, scrape it down again, make sure it's mixed top to bottom, and then scoop out your cookies. Okay. So normally in any cookie recipe, I would say you have to chill your dough. This helps you avoid spreading, and it also rests the gluten so your cookies are nice and soft. But because we have a lot of oatmeal in this cookie, we're not gonna develop that much gluten anyway, and we have scooped them individually, so as long as they don't pancake out, we can put them in the oven. When I originally did this recipe, the first round I wound up having to flatten them because they didn't really spread that much at all, and then I had to they were too tall for the sandwich, so I had to go and push down all the scooped balls I made so this way I could have a flat sandwich to bite into. While you're baking off your cookies, you want to make your cream cheese frosting. Now cream cheese frosting is super simple because all you're doing is putting the butter and the cream cheese and the powdered sugar into the mixing bowl and beating it up with a paddle. Usually you'd use vanilla extract in here because it would help thin it out a little bit and also add that nice vanilla flavor. However, I ran out of vanilla, so I used dark rum, and I really liked the flavor with the carrot cake, and I think if I had vanilla and dark rum, it really would have mellowed out the harshness of the dark rum, and I think it would have been phenomenal. So next time I make these, I'm going to use the combination of dark rum and vanilla. So if I did a teaspoon of rum here, I would do half a teaspoon of vanilla, half a teaspoon of rum. So that's one way you can experiment with flavoring in your frosting. And I did use a lot of powdered sugar here. I used close to 4 cups when a regular cream cheese frosting recipe, you would probably use 3. And this is because I wanted my icing really stiff. So powdered sugar we call 10x in the pastry world, and that is because it is ground 10 times finer than regular sugar. Now, in order to make this sugar not stick together, they add cornstarch to it so it doesn't cake together, and then what's the point of grinding it up that fine, right? So the cornstarch is what makes the frosting super stiff. So once your cookies are completely cool, they have to be completely cool or they'll melt the icing, remember that. Then you can pipe a rosette onto your cookie and make a cookie sandwich. And then all that's left is to enjoy it. So for those of you guys who are intimidated by baking, this is a way you can play with your recipe and be creative. I love trying to think of a favorite old dessert of mine like carrot cake and seeing if I can interpret it in a new fun way. And I love cookies. I got this idea because my friend Gabby was trying to make carrot cake, and actually another good point is she was making carrot cake, and they weren't turning out great because her oven, even though she had it set for 350, it was running really hot. She wound up buying a thermometer, and it was like, I think when she turned it on 400 to do something, it was at like 550 or something crazy. So it's really important to make sure that your oven is running at the right temperature, especially when you're baking, because you don't want to put all that hard work in the creaming method and then you put it in the oven that's either running too hot or maybe too low. And that's going to affect the rise or burning of your cookies or your cakes or whatever you're doing. But I got the idea to make carrot cake cookies from her because she was talking to me about carrot cake, and then my boyfriend really wanted oatmeal cookies, and I was like, that would be a really good cookie. So then this is my experimenting, trying out new things. Alright guys, thanks for watching Chef Grace's Place. I hope you learned something about the creaming method and that you're going to get creative in your cookie making this holiday season. Hopefully in the next video I won't have such bad luck in making the stuff, and all the files will be there and it'll be great. So give me a like for good luck, and I'll see you next time at Chef Grace's Place.